All right, welcome back, Elevation Station. Excited for this one. This one's a little bit different because it's COVID-19, so we're doing it via Zoom, but nevertheless, we are still making videos, still getting it done. So thank you. If you guys can introduce yourself. Fantasia, you're back, so you've been with us before. And
Hey
now we
y'all, I'm back.
have having Morgan. And yeah, if you guys could just introduce yourself really quick. Go ahead. We'll
Okay,
start with
so I'll
Fantasia.
go.
Go ahead,
So,
Fantasia.
hi guys, I'm back. It's good to be back with you guys here at Elevation Station. As some of you may remember, my name is Fantasia. I'm the makeup artist from Slay Your Life.
And follow her page at Slayer Life on YouTube and Instagram. Let's see if I got this right. It's SLAY your LYFE life.
On
Yeah.
Instagram, and then just Slay Your Life on YouTube. You got
Perfect.
it.
And Morgan.
Hey guys, I'm Morgan. New television station, but I've been watching and glad to be here and support. Right. I am an artist. For those that don't know, so you can find me on Instagram and Facebook as well. At Morgan Welch Art. But that's pretty much it.
That's great. So Morgan Welch Art, you guys could go and support her there. She's amazing artist. She says she's an artist, but she's an
Yes.
amazing artist. So check out
Thank
some of her artwork, her pieces, and things like that. We support everybody. So that's what it's about. We'll just jump straight into it. So like COVID-19, of course, I feel like everything we talk about, we got to introduce COVID-19 because it's such a big, it's such a, it caught everybody by surprise, and not just that, but
Yes.
it's just, it's weird. It's something that everybody's coping with
Hmm.
differently. You know, you have some people that are coping with it in regards to losing jobs and things like that, and then some people are just bored. So,
Yeah.
how are you guys coping with it right now, Fantasia? When I asked you before, this was weeks ago. It had like kind of just got out there, and you can actually come to the house and record now. It's a little bit more serious, or we're taking it more serious, I should say. So, how are you coping with
Yeah.
it right now, Fantasia?
Honestly, it's so funny because I feel like a lot of people are so ready to get out and go do things, and meanwhile, I'm on the other hand of like things are flourishing for me during this time, and I'm the type of personality where I feel like I have to go be at everything and be in this place. My friends are doing this, my friends are doing that. So COVID-19 has really like forced me to just girl sit your tail down. Like I told y'all before, stay inside, y'all. It's crazy. We don't know what's going on, but I've been able to really focus a lot on business and get a lot of work done for myself and kind of knock out some of my own goals. So it's been unfortunate as a nation and as all nations that we're having to go through something like this. But I've just been trying to reflect on the positive side of it and just really like, okay, what can you be doing? You know, you're sitting chill. You're not doing anything. Like, what can you be focusing on to like really set yourself up to get ahead of some things that you've been needing to do on the other side of this when COVID is done. So I have my mixed feelings about it, but I'm just trying to utilize this time the best way possible and just really stay focused on goals and just be positive.
That's true. That's why I'm trying to do the same thing. What can I focus on? What can I get better at? And reading books and things like that. So yeah, it's working out for me. What about you, Morgan? How are you coping with
I think what Fantasia said was is key. It's definitely an unfortunate situation for me. When it first started, it wasn't a transition for me where I had to work from home. I'm already working from home. So for me, it took a little bit to adjust because the weekends for me were my release, to get out of the house and to
Yeah.
see my friends, see my people. And I couldn't do that. So it was a little hard in the beginning because I love working from home, but it's like I still need that break and I still need to interact with people.
it?
So
Right.
in the beginning, it was very hard. Trying to adjust. I was bored, trying to find things to do. And I don't think I did the right things. I was just eating and just wasting my time, so to speak. But I think now that we've been in this for a little bit, like Fantasia said, you have to kind of focus on you. And I've turned that into a positive thing. I've been working on my business. I've been getting back into working out. In the beginning of the year, I was focusing on like improving myself, mind, body, and soul. And I kind of fell off a little bit because with all the distractions of life. And I think now COVID kind of made you sit down and really like, okay, what can you work on yourself? And so I'm back
Hmm.
into that journey for myself, mind, body, and soul healing
Gotcha.
altogether. So it's actually been been better than what I'm reading books. I don't read books either. So,
Right.
so it's like, okay, I've been journaling. So I just have a lot more me time, and I've always had me time, but now I'm using it more effectively. You know?
Hey, we got a little book club going on, kind of, sort of. Fantasia, you want to shout
Yes,
that out
we
for a second
do.
in case somebody else is
Y'all, y'all listen. If
Oh
you
Lord.
if you shopping for a new book, listen. They know to pick me because I'm the advocate. So he need to cut me a few coins for this. But no, in all seriousness, guys, we've been following relationship goals by Pastor Mike Todd, and it's been a game changer during
Mhm.
COVID. Because I'll be the first one to say, like, COVID had me like, okay, let me see what app I can download.
Hmm.
Who I can make quarantine day during this time, just somebody just to talk to and stuff. And I'm like, what perfect time to drop a book that speaks about relationships when individuals are forced to be at home with significant others, you're forced to be at home with your children,
Hmm.
you're forced to be in situations that you otherwise wouldn't be in because we're so used to coming and going. So a lot of people are preaching about staying in there, staying faith, remaining faithful, and like all of these other things that are uplifting. Meanwhile, you got Pastor Mike Todd over here talking about relationships. So
Mhm.
it's just been really cool. I'm really excited that I get to read this book with my friends, and I'm really excited to see what we get out of it. So if y'all looking for a new book, y'all go purchase Relationship Gold.
All
Come on,
right.
girl, be the plug. Be the plug. She
She
gonna
is the
she gonna
plug,
shout them out
for
every chance
real.
she get.
But it is a good book, so I'm currently reading it. It's a good book, so y'all
Yeah.
do what she said. But like you just said, other people talking about faith and things like that, and then that's also important too because right now, there, like I mentioned, COVID-19 caught everybody by surprise, and not just that, but it's different for everybody. So it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And this has probably been a lot on people mentally as well. It could bring, stress, anxiety. People that lose their jobs, it's tough with that. They lost family members, friends. So it's a lot of loss, a lot of confusion, and a lot of stress on our,
Mm.
on our minds right now. And it can bring people to like their lowest point. A lot of people are just waiting for this to happen and waiting for something to change, waiting for change, period, waiting to get out of their current situation. So right now they're probably dealing in their lowest point that they've been in a while. I've had my low points. This is not one, thank God. But what I really want to talk about is not so much just like if not so much just the mental part, but just being in a low space, period, right? Because I
Enjoyable.
think by our stories, it can help someone else. It might not be the same situation, but the fact that we can relate, like, hey, there was a point in my life where I was giving up. There was a point in my life where I didn't think things were going to change and things like that. The fact that we can relate on that type of level, I think it'll help hopefully, I think it'll help somebody that's watching today. So that's what I
Hmm.
want to talk about. It's just basically about a low point in our life where we really felt like, this was really taking a toll on our mind, maybe our body and soul. And we kind of want to open that up and just be transparent by sharing our stories. So I'll go to you, Fantasia. Was there a time or situation, a period in your life that you're willing to share when you felt like it was your lowest point? Maybe not your lowest point, but you know what I mean? Like it was just a point where it was hard to deal with and cope with in that season of your life.
Absolutely. I think, when you just think about lowest point and just being kind of in a mindset where you're not really sure what's going to happen on the end or how long this period is going to last. For me, it would probably be when I was in fourth grade. My mom had went through some things financially and we were homeless, and we went from basically sleeping into my mom's car and her having to utilize newspaper to cover us up to keep us warm, and then that went from her supervisor kind of finding out about her situation and allowing her to work some extra hours at work to make a few extra tips so she could purchase a hotel night for us every night. And I think for me, like it's crazy because today my mom reminded me of how young I was when that happened, but I remember it just like it was in my adult life, because it was just like such a really like traumatic time. Um, and even at that time too, she was just kind of going through domestic violence situation. So it was just like so many moving parts, and being such a young kid, your mom having to work, you being forced to stay either in a car in a hotel with other younger siblings, and kind of being that adult while your mom's trying to come up with a few coins to figure out how she's going to feed you, how she's going to pay for the hotel room. And that went on for a good 6 months of my life until my mom was finally able to get on her feet. But
6 months.
yeah, a good 6 months, either in the car or in the hotel room, and with the dog and 4 kids. So now being older, I kind of just reflect back on that situation. I'm just like, wow, like my mom really does wear a superwoman cape more so than I thought she did as a kid. Because in that mindset, you're just like, when are we gonna get out of this? You're having to go to school, and you can't really be transparent about your situation, because the mere moment anybody finds out that that's her reality, we can get taken away from her just like that. So just being older and really looking back on that and reviewing some of the information that you sent over, I'm just like, wow, like that was a low point. I remember going to school and school being that escape, and then sometimes not even being able to eat unless we were at school, because again, my mom has to either figure out whether I'm gonna feed y'all or pay for this hotel room.
That's tough. That's real tough. And thank you for sharing that. Um, just a heads up, guys. Not for you guys, but the viewers, because this episode might be a little deep. It might get a little deep. But like I said, there's people that have been in your situation that you just shared, or that's currently going through that with trying to figure out where they're gonna go. They could have gotten evicted with not working, anything
Mhm.
like that. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to open up and share, because it's not like I'm just trying to exploit your past and things like that, but we're trying to touch the people that we can't physically touch right now. We're trying to touch the people that are probably far off from us and are going through some
Mhm.
difficult times. So thank you. And then I'll let you share the same thing, Morgan. If it's a situation that you dealt with where you felt like you were at your lowest
Yeah. So when I think about that, I think about a, a progression, right? Because when you're moving in life, it's a journey, and sometimes you go up to like a peak, and then sometimes you go down. So I think for me, it was a couple events that kind of led to like the lowest point in my life. Um, for me, I'm a PK kid, as you know,
point.
and so there's a lot of expectations that I had growing up. I was physically and sexually abused when I was a child, and so that kind of started my relationship with men in like a bad light, I would say, and it kind of just went down spiral from there. So when I hear like the lowest point, I just think about a specific relationship that I was in for about 4 years, um, where you had this expectation of a preacher's kid that this man he looks good on paper, he goes to church, he's all these things. You would think it'd be a great relationship, but it took so much out of me. It was very toxic. I didn't recognize myself. I was very far from my family. I felt isolated from that situation, and it sucks when you're in a situation and you want to get out of it. You know that this is not good for you, but you just still feel captive to that. That's why I feel like that was my lowest point. It got to the point where it would just be work and him. That was all that my life was about. And I didn't like to go outside. I barely like to open the blinds in my house. It was just really a low point. I wake up not really feeling good about myself. Got really bad eating habits. Just a whole bunch of things that I think um, over the course of that time, I really had to work to get myself out of that. But I would say, as far as like the lowest point, it'll be that I think that just my relationships with men, I didn't really understand how to value myself, and that reflected in the relationships that I chose to have. So I would say that was probably like my lowest point. It wasn't anything it wasn't anything physically. I think a lot of times women go through physical abuse. Like I said,
Mhm.
that started it, but it's also about a mental thing. And a lot of times the manipulation that I was in that relationship was just so much more worse, I think, than even being in a physical relationship, because I had came from that situation. But it was very mentally draining, and somebody that you would think that was supposed to be a covering for you and a godly man, it just wasn't that.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to jump back on what you just said, because you talked about you had like eating disorders with it. You didn't want to eat, and you
Hmm.
said it was really tough mentally, breaking you down, and sounds like probably dealing with depression and things like that.
for sure.
When did you realize that? Like you said, this whole thing it was happening for like 4 years.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
when did you realize that I'm really dealing with something serious right now that's not good for me, and I need to something needs to change. I need to kind of break out of this situation.
I think I started to realize it after the first year. Um, but I feel like I didn't really say, okay, I need to get out of this situation until probably like that last year. It was like I need to distance myself. I need to change my surroundings. I bought a house. I did things to kind of uplift myself and focus more on me. And that slowly brought me out of that situation. That brought me out of that depression. But I think the first part is realizing that you're in this situation. And I realized it. So for a long time, I realized it, but it was just like, I didn't, it kind of was my normal. You know, it was like, I'm just dealing with it. It got to the point where I got fed up. And I just was like, I prayed and I just was like, God, help me get out of this situation. Give me an exit because I couldn't do it myself. So I'll probably say like the last year, I really prayed, really, really prayed hard for an exit strategy. And he gave it to me, so I took it. But yeah, it took me a while. I would say probably that last year.
So both of you guys, during those two examples, those two seasons in your life, um, talk about being down. That's really being down. That's really experiencing hurt and pain. Describe what it feels like to be in that situation with those emotions, and nobody can really see what you're going through. Like Fantasia, you said you couldn't tell anybody. You couldn't be transparent about it at the
Mm-mm.
time. Especially to adults and things like that. So, what is it like being? And I'm sure Morgan, you didn't want to go around telling people what you're experiencing and something like that either. So, what
Hmm.
is it like to be down and in that situation, and you're not able to really share with anybody, and you're just kind of going through it by yourself?
Well, for me, I mean, whew, being down and not being able to share that, and being a kid and the person that you look to for your support, your safety, is also a person who's shattered, trying to figure out like, how did I get here with four kids? And on top of having four kids, like my mom has a history of depression, and where she's gone through some things in her life, and things that she's had to overcome. So um honestly, for me, the escape was being at school, but it was such one of those things where I really feared being taken away that nobody knew. Like even just the close friends that I had, it was like even if I tell you, I was so prideful. Like, how would you look at me? I I had this big thing where I never wanted anybody to ever pity me or try and do anything for me because of the situations that we were in growing up as kids. So it was one of those things where I just kind of like internalized it and just dealt with it, and I would cry like on bus rides to go to wherever place my mom was picking us up from school. It was just I internalized that as a kid because I couldn't really conversate with my mom about that because she has her own thing going on, and then if I told anybody else, I could risk us being taken away. So I didn't really have anybody to talk to about that situation at all.
Do you wish there was like? Do you wish you could open up about it?
There was plenty of time I wish I could open up about it. Even like we would go to our dad brother house who lived remotely close to the hotel that we was at. And he knew that he was dropping us, me and my brother, off back and forth at this hotel. But even explaining to him the severity of us being homeless, um, I felt like I couldn't talk to him about it. So
Heavy.
I wish that, I could talk about it because it kind of put me in a negative headspace. Like I started to build up this resentment towards my mom because it was either, okay, what are y'all gonna eat tonight? What are we either gonna be in this hotel, or are we gonna be in this two-door Honda trying to figure out where we're gonna go? Are we even gonna have a place to take the bath, the shower? Like what's gonna be our situation day to day? So it was just like I wish I could, but I couldn't because just as much as my mom was trying to figure out her situation, I had to be that strong one for my three younger siblings. So I mean, I wish at that time that I did, but for me, it was like, okay, you know, I'm responsible for my three younger siblings. So everything that I felt and the frustration and the hurt and the fear behind my mom possibly getting caught and us being taken away was like, okay, let me mask that and tend to my siblings right now.
Morgan, what about you?
I think for me, it was more of, yeah, it was pride for sure. But I just felt like I would feel judged. And so I didn't feel comfortable for a very long time to share that. No one really even knew I was in that situation or that relationship. Um, Besides like my parents, and even to that point, they didn't know a lot of it. So it was kind of like I felt ashamed, talking about, hey, I'm dealing with this. And even to this day, when that person comes up, my mom will ask me why, and I'm just like, I don't know. Like I don't like I can't even explain to you that headspace that I was in because I don't even recognize that person. And so for me, I feel like you just I just was like, how do I explain this? I don't want to feel judged. I don't want to feel looked at, especially because I dealt with that all my life, being a PK kid, people judging you for God knows whatever, and I just didn't feel like dealing with that. And I already have so many things in my mind as far as this relationship. Adding on to that, I just felt alone. Like I said, my family didn't. I moved out, so I was in an apartment like 40 minutes away from my parents. I didn't have that many friends, and when I first moved here, it was just that was all I knew, and so it was just kind of like I felt alone. I didn't trust somebody to get this information to because, for one, I felt ashamed, or that I would share it with something, and then it would get back, and it would be twisted, or people would look at me differently, or say lies and rumors about me, and it just wasn't a good feeling. I was dealing with enough um, in that space, and so I dealt with it a lot. Like I said by myself, it was you just people look at you. You feel like people are looking at you or they're judging you just by just being with the person alone. So if you saying this is how I'm feeling or this is what I'm going through, 9 times out of 10, I wasn't thinking that people were gonna give me information to actually help me out of that situation. I say to this day, the reason that I got out of that situation is because of God and because of me. Like no one else could have really pulled me out of that situation. So that's why I chose why I don't feel like if you can help me out with this, why would I share? That's it.
With that being said, cause so you guys didn't share it with anybody, you kept it to yourself,
Mhm.
whether it was pride or just no one really needed to. You didn't want anyone to even see you in something like that because of, like you said, Morgan, how people switch things or how they start to look at you different,
Mhm.
or they might just always, oh, you okay, on the day that you might be okay. So it
Yeah.
could be a little irritating to have people in your business.
Mhm.
It is, and I feel like, and I haven't been in those situations, but I've been in some things where I didn't want to share with anybody as well. But do you think if somebody like came alongside you, like let's say there was somebody that you can trust, and there was somebody that you can really tell, would that is that important?
I'll go on that because I will say that I think once you get out of it, you start to realize that you probably could have said some things. And so now I'm not ashamed. I'm very open about the things that I go through. I use that as a stepping stone and learning tool. It helped me to realize at the point that I was going through a depressive state. And now I know I'm learning to learn myself. I've gotten older. So I know my triggers and what I won't tolerate to not go back to that state. So I feel like in a way kind of had to go through that. And so now I use that to empower and share in other women. Like I said, I bought my house. That was kind of like the first stage. I started having girls' nights. It kind of started from when we had Bible study or small group one time, and I shared that I was abused. Um, and like I said, that's a very vulnerable thing to share in front of people you don't, not everybody that you know like that. Um, and then I knew it was okay to do that because right after that, I had a lot of girls come to me and share the things that they were dealing with. So that was confirmation. It's like, even if I didn't feel comfortable in that moment to do it, I think that now, looking back on it, I could have had reached out to people, and there would have been people there to support me because they showed me support now, even after I'm out of it, and still have those moments where I have a good support system. So I think sometimes you just get in your own head and you get scared a lot of the time. But I learned in that situation after, like I said, just sharing. And that's why now I'm very vocal about even little small things that I go through, because I think that you can help somebody else and not even know it.
Right.
So yeah.
And I even say to piggyback off of Morgan, now that I'm older, I think that experience kind of contributes to why I even decided to mentor a couple of girls here and there, because I feel like although I was scared to share because I feared being taken away from my mom and my mom being in trouble, your struggles being the result of, you being in deeper trouble when you're already trying to get out of a situation, especially something as where my kids gonna sleep and what are my kids gonna eat. And you just constantly being in this cycle of, okay, if I work, the money that I could be saving, I have to pay for a hotel room, or the money that I could be saving, I have to figure out how I'm going to feed my kids. So for me, I think if I had someone that was in my life that I could view as a safe space and someone who I developed a mentor mentee relationship, I maybe would have shared. Because now that I know what I know, that could have been someone who could have eventually helped my mom get on her feet and get grounded, to put us in a better situation. So I think that contributes to why I think also like Morgan, it's important to create those type of relationships. But again, it's relationship because something as sacred as if this gets into the wrong
Right.
hands, like we could be taken away.
Yeah. But I also think that your voice is so important. And I'm even still learning that in this quarantine season about my voice. But I think can't nobody take anything away from that you've already progressed. And I'm a firm believer in that. I don't know the exact saying, but you're not going to use what I've already shared as a blessing to try to, then I'm giving you that power. So for me, it's
Hmm.
like, once I came and overcame that, I was like, I really don't care, if you want to use this against me, because you can't use that against me. I've healed from that situation and I moved on. So I think you have to be, comfortable in yourself too, because there are going to be some people out there that are going to try to use that. Um, and now, not to have like a rude attitude, but I just don't care. It's like I'm progressing, I'm going where I'm going. And if you feel like that's what you need to do to bring me down, that's a reflection on you. That ain't nothing to do with me or what I've been
Right. And like you said, the voice is important.
Hmm.
Sometimes that's where the healing takes place. That's
through.
why
Hmm.
sometimes it is important to have somebody there that you can talk to. Next week, I'm gonna have Kim, our therapist, come on and talk about that kind of stuff. But yeah, for me, like the power of me actually overcoming and continuing to overcome and the stuff that I went through was my voice was actually sharing with somebody else or telling people, and that kind of freed me in a way from
Hmm.
the situations that I
Absolutely.
were going through. So I want to ask this: you guys talked about it a little bit. I think Morgan, you talked about it a little bit, but how did you, in those situations? Because those are like some serious situations. How did you press on when you were in that season, when you were in the lowest point of your life, or one of the lowest points? How did you press on physically? How did you press on emotionally and spiritually? Like, what worked for you
Well, for me, I think during that season, I lost a friend. She committed suicide, and just seeing that, even when I was a kid going through things, I would always tell myself, just from what we believed in, like nothing. The scripture talks about how God won't give you more than you can handle. So I would always tell myself that. When I'm at my lowest point, where I don't want to go through this anymore, I would have to constantly tell myself that, to get me out of that. And then when I see my friend go through that from dealing with similar situations with men, I was like, that can't be me. I just will not allow that to me, and I have to keep telling myself that. And then I would find things to do. My art really kept me busy, so that kind of helped me still have purpose and fulfillment. I think because when you're dealing with depression, you're feeling at your lowest point, you feel like you're not worth anything or you don't have any purpose. I knew that God had given me that gift, and that was going to help me kind of bring that out. So I stayed busy. I worked a lot. I did a lot of things in my personal career, at Verizon. You know, I did a lot of different projects. I stayed busy. I had to keep doing different activities to keep my mind focused on other things because I knew when I would go home, that's what I was dealing with. So I would just kind of stay busy in my work, finding art opportunities every chance I got. I would kind of just stay busy, and then I started to realize that I matter, and I started focusing on me. I've got a house. I did little things that on my checklist that I wanted to do. Well, that started to shift my focus. So I had to shift my focus and my mindset first to be able to get out of that. And I think that's spiritually, mentally, all those things. I had to really have a serious conversation with myself and be like, this isn't the end for you. Like this is something that you can get through, and you're gonna get through it. You have to kind of just keep speaking positive affirmation to yourself, especially if nobody else is going to.
Right. Yeah. And that's what started that shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, because I was so young, for me, the thing that kept me going was when I got to go to school. I knew like I could be around my whatever friends, even if it was just for 8 hours. Like I'm at school and this is an escape and I can be happy here. I can put on this facade, like everything is so perfect in my world. Nobody knows what's going on. At this place, like I can act and be the best actor at this school about my current situation because when I walk out of here, ain't no telling where I'm gonna be sleeping at tonight. So for me, school was the escape of all things. It was the escape when my mom was being physically abused, you know, just like different things in life. School was always that escape because there I could put up this wall and just just be whoever I wanted to be outside of what my reality was at home.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, because you were young, you said you're in fourth grade. So that's very young. Let's say something that you don't have to pull out another story of something that you went through. But let's say something that you went through that was probably not as tough, but did require, some courage to kind of press on through a different situation. Um, how did what would you tell somebody who's going through that, or how did you get through that? Being
Mm.
older.
Being older would be the passing of my dad, my dad's death. I think my dad being this like a spiritual man that he was, and just being like just in every aspect of who he was, is fun, happy go lucky person. My personality, for those of y'all who do know me, my personality mimics a lot of who my dad was. So pressing on, I think for me that's where that spiritual aspect came in at. Because I know like sitting here being bogged down, being sad about different situations is not what he would have wanted. So whenever I go to that place and whenever I think back into that place, I'm like, if you were here, what would you want? Like, how would you want me to react to different things? Like, what would you say to me? How would you make me laugh if I was sad right now? So I'm just really being in a mental space of just thinking back on that positivity and remembering more of the legacy and who he was as a person, opposed to the fact that that he's no longer here.
That's good. So what I got from that is, Morgan, you were able to both of you guys shifted your focus while
Mm-hmm.
you were going through those situations. You were able to shift your
Mm-hmm.
focus, and whether it's being busy or finding something else to do, or just asking yourself, um, like you said, what would my dad do, or what would somebody do in this situation? Somebody that you can trust or you love. How would they want you to press on in that situation? So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys believe like this was a process that you had to go through? Because I was talking to my friend, he was saying that he doesn't believe in a coincidence and all this kind of stuff. And I'm the same way. But do you guys believe this was like a process? Because everything's a process. You guys, Morgan, you spoke on how this was a process before.
Mm-hmm.
You believe it's a process you had to go through to push yourself forward, or it was used to push you forward or elevate you to who you are now?
Yeah, I think so. I think that I will say that we all have free will, right? So you can still make your decision. I don't think I necessarily had to go through that specific situation to get the process, but I
Mm-hmm.
Right.
understand it now that I'm out of it. It's funny because people always, well, we tell you you're delivered now because of just how big my voice is, how empowering I am. So I think that for me specifically, that was designed for me to have to go through. I'm not proud of every action that I did in that situation, but I think that there's a process to it, and sometimes we're God's children. So when you don't do what you're supposed to do, He's gonna have to kind of rear you. In my situation, I mean, I can't speak for because everybody's situation is different, but for my situation, um, I feel like that I kind of had to go through that to get to where I am today. Um,
And
so
I'll
yeah,
just say this, like, I didn't want to make it seem like you were supposed to do it, like, but
yeah,
we live in a fallen world, so we're gonna experience different things, that's may not be caused by us. It's just the
yeah.
society we live in,
Hmm.
and
Right.
like you said, just all things eventually they do work together for the good of those who love God. So He'll use any situation. I think that's the beauty in it. That
Hmm.
no, He didn't want you to suffer that
Right.
situation how you did, but He still somehow used it to shape you and make you who you are today.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
also not just that, but to do what we're doing now and share the story and help someone else who's in a similar situation. So I
Yeah.
think that's good.
I
That's
couldn't
Hmm.
good.
have said it better. Everything that I was gonna say is exactly what Johnny just said.
I was gonna say
Um,
Fantasia. Were you just gonna say?
I was gonna say the exact same thing. Because I think for me, a lot of the things that I experienced as a kid, by no means did I have a easy childhood. Like there was something always happening. But now that I'm older and I look back on those situations, like me and Morgan talk about this all the time, like we're not victims, like
Yeah.
we've overcome and we're like victorious in those situations. So for me, in those moments, yes, I wish this wasn't my reality. But now in this current time and standing here talking about this right now, I look back and I'm like, wow, I'm grateful because God, you took that situation that just seemed like the worst at that time and like gave that to me. And that's molded and shaped the person that I am today, the core values that I have, the morals and the beliefs and the standards that I stand on. And it's like every single thing that we've gone through has been something that we can turn around and use to uplift and encourage somebody else. So although that's the shaping and that's that story that God has allowed us to have, but ultimately it is His story because we can use
Hmm.
those testimonies to be transparent and share with other people to help them overcome. So it's like I may run into somebody else who is in the current situation with kids that my mom was in, and I can be like, hey, I've been in this hole before. Like, grab my hand and I can show you how to get out. So it's just like, yeah, we don't wish those on ourselves in that current time. But when
Yeah.
you think back and you think back to the person that you are now, it's like, God, thank you for giving me that story because that story gives me a platform to stand on to go out and do your work and what you created me to do. So I'm grateful despite everything that I've been through.
Good, yeah. So we're wrapping up. What's your message to people that are suffering right now, even in COVID? It could be because of COVID-19 or whatever, but they're suffering. Um, what do you tell them when they feel there's no way out of where they're at right now? What words of encouragement or advice would you share with
Me,
them? Yeah, let's start
you
with
want me to go first? Honestly, it sounds so cliche, but I would say pray. Um, a lot of times where I was kind of just growing up and being in those situations young, like I didn't really know. I knew God, I knew there was a God and you believe in Him and you pray to Him. That was as much as I knew, but I didn't know as much as I know now. But to anybody who you're currently in a situation and you have nobody to talk to, pray and ask God to guide you. And although praying may not exactly do it for you right now, but continue to pray and ask God to guide you to someone else that you can share those trials and things that you're going through with, because that helps. Like it helps um, kind of flesh that out and get you in the midst of just sharing your story and just being transparent. And if you feel like that's something that you can't quite do, again, pray. God does answer prayers, and praying and connected to Him in that sense about some things that you're facing right now could provide like a different type of peace and something that you may just been seeking as in a sense of just having peace. over your current situation. So that's what my advice would be.
That's good advice.
Yeah. I would add to that and say that just keep your mind stayed on Him. I think because some people might really be good at praying, others might be reading the Word. Like for me, it was that scripture, reading that scripture over and over again. He's not going to give you more than you can handle, but you're going to be able to get through this. There's tons of scriptures on there that kind of help you with that. So meditating and saying those scriptures over and over again, that was for me what kind of helped me get out of it, and also listening to music. I'm an artsy person, so I love
Yes,
music,
me
and I
too.
think that that was also a way that I feel very connected to God. So whatever that vice is for you, I would say as long as your mind is stayed on God, that's gonna help you. He's gonna put that right song on there. He's gonna, show you that right scripture or tell you something in your heart from praying that will kind of get you going. And because that really is the only person that's gonna be able to bring you out of it anyway.
Right.
So I would just say to keep your mind stayed on Him, whatever that is for you. That's what I usually tell people. And then
Mhm.
don't be afraid also to to open up, and if that's a therapist or a friend or a family member, somebody, you know, when you reach out to someone, that helps, and that there's ways as a resource as well for people to be able to help out with that.
That's good.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
closing, thank you guys. And I would just tell you guys to watch this video because this might help you out as well, honestly,
Yeah.
or anybody's story. Like we
Yeah.
talked about, sharing of our stories, pull other people through it, pull us out ourselves. So, and like Morgan said, and like Fantasia said, pray, seek God, and seek additional help outside of that as well, because there's therapists that you can see and family and friends and a lot of people that God puts in your as resources. He's the source, but we have a whole bunch of resources we can go to as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, so thank you guys. This was episode 10. Thank you for being so transparent. This was really heartfelt, I had to say. Probably one of the best episodes we had. So I appreciate
Yeah.
you guys being a part. Next week, I hope everyone stays tuned because next week we're kind of not gonna stay on this topic. We kind of will talk about like mental health and things like that in some practical ways with a special guest who is a therapist. So stay tuned. But in the meantime, thank you guys, and I hope y'all have a great night. And thanks for tapping in with Elevation Station.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.